Well, I'm Allan Dale, and of course, this is the Island Do. I'm here alone this morning. My co-host Blake is on an important business call, as he often is. So I've got the helm for the first few minutes, to be sure. The number to call in, of course, is 1-902-500-2464. That's 1-902-500-2464. Of course, we'd really like to hear you call in and get your opinion. We've started this thing 10 days ago, basically when Artemis 2 was sent into space. We started this, and of course, they're on their way back right now. I always like to start the conversation, with a big sort of macro look and then work our way right down to the island concerns and questions. Hopefully you'll have some along the way. But globally, things have really heated up over the last 10 days, really. I mean, they were now in the midst of a ceasefire in the Middle East, and who knows how long, or if that is indeed really going to hold a lot of complications. When it first came out, it was a lot of sort of misinformation about what was happening, but we're starting to see things level out a little bit now in that part of the world, and hopefully things really do, because at the end of the day, while the news might talk about fuel prices and all those things, there's really lives in the middle of all of this and being affected by it. So I really do hope that things settle out there in the near future. And of course the same thing applies for the folks in Gaza that are struggling through trying to get lives back together, Lebanon, and of course the Ukraine. Oftentimes we forget about what's happening there, and that war is just churning along in the background. So there's a lot to be sort of discussed and talked about. And I would say this, though, from a fellow who's been in and around the defense conversation for almost 4 decades now, there's little doubt that there's a lot of emphasis around defense spending. There's a lot of emphasis around how we protect ourselves, how we ally with other folks, and our whole approach to things. I think that Canada is doing a remarkable job navigating this complex world. Of course, we don't have everything right, and it's the type of thing where you probably never will get it 100% correct. But what I can tell you is we're trying, and that's there's a lot to be said for that. I live by a rule that I learned a long time ago, and it comes from the Marine Corps doctrine, and that is called the 70% solution. And what that really means is you gather up 70% of the details and you go. The other 30% will sort itself out as you go along the way. If you don't go on that 70% mark, you can bet somebody else is going to get ahead of you and get moving faster than you. And that's important when you talk about the Marine Corps and things like that. But it's important in life too, that you just start moving. I have another business, of course, and I always tell my business partner, let's stop tuning the guitar and just get the gig. And that's what I mean by that. It's just get moving. So when I look at what Canada's doing in this defense conversation, we don't have 100% of the solution, but we certainly have 70, and we're moving rapidly. We're making contacts around the world. You see our Prime Minister traveling in places that we haven't been in quite some time, striking up relationships while still maintaining relationships with our most important partner to the south of our border. So there's a lot happening there. And I have to ask myself, is the province of Prince Edward Island keeping up with that? Are they moving at the same pace as the country is moving? Well, I would argue perhaps maybe we could be moving a little bit faster. Maybe we're just a little bit too quiet about what it is that we are doing, and we need to be telling our story a little bit better. And I think that's a nice little sort of segue into what I really want to talk about next, and that is sort of the power of telling your story, the power of information, the power of communicating in a way that people can understand what it is you're doing. And of course, I'm not talking about doing this in a boastful fashion. That's just not a Canadian thing. Indeed, that's not an Atlantic Canadian thing, to be sure. So what I'm really talking about here is more of an ability to tell our story. And I think that we need to work a little bit more on that as we move forward. I don't find that that's done well enough, certainly throughout Atlantic Canada, certainly throughout Canada. We don't often tell our story enough to get that message out there of the good things that are happening. And there are so many good things happening that I think that when you celebrate those good things, it's through those that you're able to then grow, become better, move things along faster. And of course, Blake and I talked over the course of the last 10 days around healthcare in Prince Edward Island, around many other things, land usage and things like that. To me, that all really stems down to the whole idea of, are we telling our story? Are we explaining what's happening here on this incredible island? Blake talked about healthcare, talked about recruitment, talked about the challenges we have here. Of course, we're not alone. Everybody struggles with the same thing, whether it's in the small towns throughout the United States or whether it's across Canada. Everybody struggles with getting healthcare providers in their community. It's a real thing, and we need to focus on it. I would argue, though, we keep repeating the same fashion. We go to the events, we try to recruit, we throw money at the problem, we say we've got the best package to offer. Well, I can tell you this, it's not all about money. It never is all about money. It's providing a holistic solution to somebody to come to your place. And that's what PEI has. PEI has something special here that I would argue does not exist in many other places. And of course, I'm talking about our sense of community, our sense of self right here in Prince Edward Island. It's a beautiful place, but more so than the beauty of this island, it's the people that live here. And it's those people that are our best recruiting tools. There's little doubt about that. You know, I've often heard over the years, doctors recruit doctors and all of these words that have been used, especially here in Prince Edward Island. Well, I actually couldn't disagree more. Doctors are meant to see patients. Doctors are not meant to do recruiting. Point final, in my opinion. And maybe somebody can jump on here and tell me why I'm wrong, and I hope you do. But in my opinion, doctors see patients, or healthcare professionals work with patients. That's what they do. Recruiting is a very specialized skill set, and not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do it. But what I'm telling you is that the people of Prince Edward Island are our own best recruiting tool. It's through our conversations with friends and family, showing our connection to one another that solves these type problems. If I were in healthcare recruiting in the province of Prince Edward Island, I would look at every possible way to tap into that powerhouse, that strength that we have right here in Prince Edward Island. So what does that look like? Well, we need to roll out a series of campaigns that tell our story, that explain who we are. Real voices, real people who have been positively impacted by their surroundings, not just the healthcare system, but their entire network around them. Somebody gets ill. You can bet that somebody gets ill in this community, people are there to help them. There's no doubt about that. You are not left in isolation. You are there to help. You can't even pull over on the side of the road in this province and look at a map and somebody doesn't pull in behind you and tries to give you some direction on where to go. I'm telling you, our strength is in our people. We need to really focus on that more if we're going to hope to sort of win this sort of battle for healthcare professionals. To me, that is, but the story doesn't stop there. The story lands everywhere. When we talk about land use on the island and those very complex, challenging issues, what's happening now is there's a big void in the conversation. And because there's a void in the conversation, misinformation comes out. And that's truly a concern. But I think what we really need to focus on, and we've got an arm right over the camera.
I see that, and I apologize, and I appreciate you jumping into this, Allan. I'll try to move my arm. We're just going to
nothing better than an arm in front of the camera when you're in the middle of a podcast.
Well, it could be my some other parts.
Could be another body part, I suppose. But at the end of the day, Blake's back. He's about to take the chair, and we're up and running. We're now 10 minutes into the podcast. And Blake, I was just talking about sort of the big global impacts that are happening around the world and bringing that right back home to Prince Edward Island and talking about the importance of conversation, just like we're doing now. Of course, the number to call in is 902 500-2464. We are the Island Do, and we'd love to hear from you. Let's go over to you.
I can't believe you talked for all that time without me.
100%.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't think you need me.
Well,
we're going to have to renegotiate contract because you're more capable than we even thought in the original contract. Apologize for being a little bit late, and I was doing some work in Alberta.
Okay, well.
Well, that's great. So we do a lot of healthcare recruitment, and we want to do more healthcare recruitment. And Alberta's a very fertile market for us. Great conversation.
What is it about Alberta that's different? What makes it so good to do work out there?
It's kind of like working in New York or Hong Kong or Dubai. People make decisions.
Okay.
If they have a need, they can decide quickly and engage and move forward. And you don't always find that in other markets, and you certainly don't always find that in Prince Edward Island. So, great opportunity. I think maybe 7 plus 12, 22 hospitals or something.
Okay,
so,
yeah,
very productive sort of engagement. And I apologize for being late. This is what happens when you're running a podcast.
No problem.
Distractions.
Back to your point, though, I love being in a conversation with decision makers.
Nothing better.
There's nothing better, right? And I find that sometimes we're too slow to make decisions in this part of the country, and I hope to be corrected on that. But I know that I do a lot of work in Newfoundland, and I want
to work all over the globe. You're probably the most globally connected person that has ever been on this podcast.
And I just love dealing with people that enjoy sort of moving things forward. I talked earlier about people who move with 70% of the information and get going. That to me, I think, is the recipe for success.
Yeah. In fact, I've studied some things where people who make the most successful decisions will have 80% of the information.
Yeah.
They'll advance. If they have to pivot, they'll pivot 70, 80%. But at least you're moving forward. You're making decisions quickly. If you have to react, you react. It's like a pilot. Mm-hmm. When you're traveling between two destinations, they don't go in a direct line. They're always course correcting, and there's factors like weather and things that make them change their course to get to the destination when they plan to. But you're always changing as need be.
Right. Yeah. But having the courage to go and understand that things will start coming together on the journey, right?
Of course, but if you're not moving, if there's no motion, you don't get the inertia and you fall behind.
Yeah.
I think that's what you find particularly with PEI government. The decision-making cycle, the ability to engage, the speed at which decisions are made impairs progress. And I guess that would be something I would find unique to island communities.
Right.
It's maybe not different than the Caribbean communities, but when you're working in more efficient jurisdictions, you don't get those sort of delays.
Is that the structure of the government that's causing this, or is it interference, or what is it causing?
It's probably culture. It's
okay.
Probably habitual long-term sort of degradation of speed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's something that happens quickly. It has to happen over time.
Yeah.
And I think that it could be leadership, it could be lack of empowerment, it could be a fear to make a decision, which we talked about before.
Right.
Those are things that impair progress and slow things down. And in a globally competitive environment like healthcare recruitment, you got to move fast.
Right.
If you don't, you lose out.
Talk to me when you said lack of empowerment. Did you sort of unpack that?
Well, I think you look at, this is an observation, but if you look at the general bureaucracy, which we've talked about in the show, people are wanting to do good work, they're focused, they show up at work, they want to make an impact, but the environment kind of crushes you. You can't make decisions. You're scared to make a decision that might negatively come back and impact you. So I think it's that, the lack of empowerment, the fear of people making decisions in case they make the wrong decision. But back to your comment, make a 70% accurate decision and then pivot. If you made a mistake, great, you're making progress, fix it.
Right.
And I think maybe that's what's lacking in many government institutions.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's stay on government institutions for a moment. And I'll throw a sort of a controversial one at you.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the desire to have government employees back in the office? So it's happening right here in Veterans Affairs, one of our big government departments right here in Charlottetown. Talk to me about the desire to have them back in the office. Where do you see this, coming from? And do you think that it makes sense in this workforce era?
That's a very sensitive subject.
Yeah.
Of course I have an opinion. So we shut down for COVID, as we had to.
Yeah.
We continue to do operations because some of the things we do, we can't stop. It's got to keep going. There's too many different processes that are in effect. We had one person work in the office, And I got kind of tired of this COVID distraction. Very efficient organizations, primarily financial institutions in the US, like Goldman Sachs. And I can give you the list of the people, but Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan, Google, Elon Musk. These big institutions said, look, we had time away, it's time to get back.
Mm-hmm.
We are missing the connectivity of the human elements, the banter at the water cooler. People weren't enjoying being at home. And in my environment, people were very happy to be at home. They were reluctant to be told to get back to work.
Right.
Some people, given the option to either come back or exit, chose to exit, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But we are a high-touch organization. We need the interactivity of human conversation. We encourage people to get back. They came. Those that came were really happy to be back because they lost the high-touch interaction of meeting with colleagues and the personal connections. So, to the public sector, who've been long delayed in returning, and there's been arguments as to why people might not want to return. So in provincial government, I remember Stephen Myers made a comment on, we're going to save carbon by not having people drive back to the offices. The federal government, there's huge resistance at Veteran Affairs and other sectors. I'm pretty unwavering in my decision that people need to be back where humans are interactive mammals that need interaction with other people. We can't be isolated at home. We can't be doing side hustles of other projects. We need to be efficient and contributing and engaged. And, in my firm, it was either, I'd love to have you back. If that doesn't work for you for some reason, find a different place to work.
Yeah, my feeling on it has sort of waxed and waned over time. I always felt that.
So you're not quite as strict as I am.
I'm not quite as binary on
So
anything as you are.
Call in if you have a difference of opinion.
And if you are one of those workers that have an opinion, please let us know.
And you know they're not going to call to support your side.
Yeah,
But give me a call.
I think that, so I watch some folks that are actually more efficient at home.
But long term, I think there's in the short term, I think there's an efficiency. And people end up working 10 hours instead of 6.5 because you're just always at the computer. I don't know if efficiency stays static. Like I'll talk to people in the federal service, because we deal with the federal government, I deal with the provincial government. You can hear kids cry in the background.
Right.
Like, that's a distraction from meeting the obligations of your employer.
Well, yeah, but I mean, sure. Okay,
What's the number again? In case
the number is 902-500-2464. I'd love to hear your opinion on this.
Opinions.
Right, I do. Yeah, I'm not married to it one way or the other. Quite honestly, I find it interesting though that it's become such a discussion point. It's almost like it's the us against them, right? You often find in the discussion, I find anyway, is that people who feel that public servant get a great job, they get everything, they all have a great pension and all that, and they should be at work, they should be at their desk, or it's like
it's a service. The position is to serve the public.
Yeah, I'm not.
I know you're not.
I'm not locked into it one way or the other.
Okay.
I can be convinced. In fact, like most things in life, I find the answers in the gray. So maybe it's a combination of a lot of things. Maybe it's not just a hybrid workplace, but maybe it's just a sort of a different understanding of how people are going to contribute. But yeah, I tend to agree. If they're not going to go into the office, well, maybe there needs to be a higher obligation or something. I don't know how it all looks, but right now, what I can tell you is that there's a lot of conversation, a lot of tension.
A lot of frustration.
Clearly, people have opinions.
Well, look, it's a private sector, and I operate in a realm which is we're working on cash flow daily, and we need people focused and productive, or we're not in business. So
there was a time in our lifetime where if you wanted to make a great deal of money, you went into the private sector. The public sector was not necessarily seen as something that you could get quite wealthy at. I mean, there was some pensions and stuff like that. That conversation's flipped a little bit. I mean,
it's so much. So, I mean, Patrick Ledwell has a great statement when he does his public presentations at Veteran Affairs. Nobody knows what goes on in there, but everybody wants to get in.
Right.
And I think the federal public service have a lot of benefits.
Right.
Benefits that the public sector, even with the province, don't have. So and both institutions, federal and provincial, have benefits that the private sector employers don't have the luxury of providing. We've lost people to both levels of government, more commonly provincial government, because we can't compete with the benefits. We're just not scaled to.
Well, you saw that not so many years ago when Veterans Affairs went on a hiring spree for nurses, and a lot of people left the provincial system.
80 or something. I think it's a huge number.
It was a huge number, right? It made a huge
But
impact.
that stripped out the workforce from both private sector nursing homes and public sector.
Right.
Big impact.
Yeah. And then, of course, then you've got all of this sort of remote nursing and where they pay quite a bit of money for those services, and then there's a complaint around that. There seems to be a no-win here.
No, I mean, there's always something to be not satisfied with, I'm sure. And if you want to voice your opinion, I don't see any comments on Facebook, but...
this is a controversial subject.
That's right. This is exactly what we want. We want opinions from people.
902-500-2464. Call in. We'll be happy to put you on.
I had one job for the last week, which was to read out that number, and I've lost it.
You've lost it.
The
cadence of you reading it out, I don't think was appealing to the audience.
Probably not.
So I'm trying it this way and see if we get more calls. So I really hope we do. Again, that's 902-500-2464. Come on, call in, and let's get into the conversation.
So, Allan, we've had great experience here the last week and a little bit.
10 days. When Artemis took off, we started.
No joke, April 1st.
100%.
And you are going to be departing this chair, which is traumatic. I know the listeners, we've gotten a lot of fan mail.
They'll march in the streets.
I think there's pitchforks and torches right now on Queen Street. So I know you've got other obligations. We hope that you come back and miss this so much that you're only gone for a couple of hours. But we do need another co-host because you listen to Allan here for 10 minutes, and that's probably as much as you need. So we're going to continue this, and I'm the sole host. You won't last 5 minutes, especially with my raspy voice. We'd love your comments. Send us a text or an email or contact us and let us know who you'd like to see sit in this chair.
That's a great point, yeah. Throw that up to the audience and say, who would you like to see?
Tell us, yeah. In fact, there's a couple of people that I think have expressed interest, and now we hope they jump at the opportunity. But politicians, leave your duty at afternoon theater in the legislature and come and sit and join us.
Yeah, I mean, I think an hour out of your schedule, and it really is only an hour. You pop in, everything is set up here, ready to go. It's an hour out of your schedule, but it's a great time to, well, first of all, get your own thoughts out there, and I think that's therapeutic in and of itself. Clearly it was for you on that last rant.
Wow,
but
still out of breath.
There's still a lot to go. But it's great to sort of engage and grow this conversation. That's really what it's all about, isn't it?
It is, and this doesn't work unless we get feedback from our audience. We've had some great calls.
Yeah.
Yesterday we had a call from Jamie Fox.
That was a great call.
Very educational. Gave us perspective on how the fuel prices are set.
Yeah.
What goes into that, including taxation, which was quite shocking. And maybe suggestions on how we could collaborate regionally to improve that.
And a good understanding of Iraq, right? And to be quite honest with you, I had no idea Iraq came under the Department of Education. Did you know that? You probably
no. Why would you expect that it would? It's completely, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And Jamie had a good comment, let's put it under the Attorney General.
Right.
Or someplace where it actually would make sense to be governed. Education does not make sense.
No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a very interesting thing, or fact for me. That was a good call from Jamie. I'm glad he called in and had his voice heard. So here we are. I saw it there on the news. The Prime Minister is at a Liberal retreat right now. Quite a reception he received coming into the room.
So is it at all the four crossers retreat for just them, or is there other people involved?
No, there's a lot of people involved, but there's talk about many other people in the wings ready to cross. What do you think of it?
I've heard, lie to me, lie to you, but I've heard that the Conservative Party are actually trying to take over the Liberal Party by having people cross and join. I don't know if that's true, but what a strategic masterstroke if they could come in to take that party over.
Well, there's certainly, this is a start to it all for sure. But it's interesting to watch all that play out. A couple of by-elections coming up.
Three of them.
Three of them coming up, and probably two are in
Who knows? Hard to know.
It's hard to know, but
Can't believe polls anymore.
right. But it's interesting. I mean, Jamie had a thought on it. We both had a thought, and I talked with folks about it last night. How they would feel if their member of parliament sort of crossed the floor.
And we commented as well. So,
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, my position, the position of many, is if you're elected under a certain policy, should you not stay with that policy? Were you having technical challenges?
Yes, the broadcast is often live today.
Okay.
Double checking, right?
Sure.
So we got some tech issues, and we're working through it now.
So our technical expertise is going to make sure that, so we broadcast, in case people don't know, this is Facebook Live for those that are watching, and the volume of watching is kind of remarkable.
Is that right?
It is. It's recorded, it's broadcast, and people over 24 hours, shockingly voluminous, which is great.
Right.
We also post it on, in fact, if you haven't seen it, you can go to theislanddude.com, and we're broadcast live on internet radio.
Okay.
So people can pick it up there, and that's the technical part that's kind of not functioning. It looks like we're back up and in business, which is great. Now, our podcast, you can get them on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, lots of places.
I believe the cool kids say anywhere you get your podcasts.
If you have a desire to hear what we're saying, you can catch it on many platforms. And today, actually should have been yesterday, but late last night, Robert Mitchell, the podcast for this week, was just released.
Okay. How did that go? How was the podcast?
The podcast is great. They're all great.
Yeah.
And it's great to have conversations with Islanders, people either living on PEI who've got perspective, or people who have moved from PEI
Right.
that have things to share. Podcasts are always great. They're an hour-long conversation. They're informative. It gives people a chance to communicate in a longer format than you can in traditional media.
Did Robert discuss his desire to come back to politics after such a break?
Did you listen to the podcast?
Tell me about it.
Okay. If you haven't listened to it, my comment was that, like, the prisoner who escaped
Right.
and then came back in. Big decision, and a lot of factors went into that decision making. You listen to podcasts, but really, just like the federal election cycle, a lot changed in a short time.
Right.
So where there was a very predictable path, that changed with the leadership convention for the PC party, where there wasn't really anybody expressing much interest. We had a strong candidate step forward. The current premier, Rob Lance, decided to enter the race, and the equation kind of shifted, and it changed the timetable potentially on a provincial election. So, these are factors beyond the control of anybody but government.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make decisions. The same with anybody who's trying to run today for vacant seats, either as a Tory, but more complex as a Green Party, an NDP, or a Liberal. You don't know the timing of the election, and it's hard to give up your vocation, your employment, waiting for an unknown date for an election rate to drop.
Yeah.
So
Even more difficult for women, I would argue.
well, there's lots of research on that, and I would say that you're absolutely correct. I think politics in general tends to be more difficult for women because of the obligations that tend to still reside with women. And they made some accommodation in the legislature. I think they've stopped the evening sittings, which was difficult for people with families.
Right.
And then there's a lot of, I would say, social media anonymous frustration or abuse that tends to gravitate more toward females than it does toward men.
Right.
So, difficult vocation. Important that we have people representing from all genders.
And it's it's hard work to get elected, for sure, but it's even harder work when you're elected. I mean, you're on your game all the time.
Yeah, and Robert Mitchell was elected, held a couple of cabinet positions, left the asylum, and then came back.
Yeah.
So I think there's a call to service and a vocation to serve the public that would motivate people to do that.
Yeah, I have a very good friend that was just elected in Newfoundland, changing. I mean, he was in opposition first, and then he was elected, and then the government took him. His name is Lynn Paddock. Lynn is now the Minister of Jobs, Immigration, and Francophone languages in Newfoundland. And Lynn was one of those guys that he did a full career in the Navy, but was he was from a very small part of Newfoundland called Roberts Arm, Newfoundland. And it's in the Bayvert, up around that area, for people who want to look on a map. It's a pretty small place. And Lynn it was all about promoting his hometown, his region, his entire career in the Navy, you know, and so much so, Lynn was, when he finished his naval career, he was the controller for the Canadian Navy. But Lynn,
Big position.
it's a huge position, and he often jokes that his fuel budget was more than the Newfoundland budget. But anyway,
Well, with a last name like Paddock, he probably locked it down to me.
he won 89% of the
Okay.
open, but not on his first time, on his second time. But anyway, long story short, Lynn was so moved by advancing his hometown that when he would have leave in the Navy every summer
Yep.
as an accountant,
Yeah.
he would go back to his hometown and he would do the taxes for all the folks in the old folks home. And
Oh wow, that's a big commitment.
but his commitment to his community
Right.
today is just part of who he is,
And
right?
it's probably translated into a very successful election.
They love him, right?
Yeah,
And of course they love him because he loves them.
Right.
So it's a really interesting success story, and he's, in my opinion, he's a shining star in the Newfoundland government right now. And we have people like that here.
Sure we do.
We have exact that same thing, right? Yeah.
We have people who have tried to serve, not always successful in the first attempt.
Yeah.
Sometimes takes many attempts. I often think of when I returned, I guess it just when I was leaving PEI. So I left PEI, I kind of forget the dates, 96, 97, gone to Halifax, the IT sector for 10 years, and returned. Mike Curry, who had tried to run unsuccessfully in the riding in Georgetown at the time, after many attempts, was successful and became a very effective and popular cabinet minister
Right.
for a couple of terms. So
Yeah. I was told once that in politics you got to learn how to lose to learn how to win, right?
And you have to do it with humility,
Yeah.
regardless of what
Yeah.
occurs, especially if you want to come back and try to serve again.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's an interesting work. You know, I highly encourage people to do it for sure, but know what you're getting into when you get in there because it's a lot of work, right? And if you're the person that truly believes in your community, I think there's hardly a more rewarding job.
there you go. Well, if there's any politicians out there that heard that nice sort of complimentary conversation,
Trying to get you some help.
call in. Yeah. What is the number if you want to call?
902-500-2464. That's 902-500-2464. Call in. We'd love to hear your voice. Love to have you in this conversation.
So I asked AI, what are the topical issues that came up in the legislature
Okay.
in the last 4 sessions?
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice. I didn't double check it, didn't fact check it. It seems a little bit mono-focused,
Okay.
but the feedback that came back, and I didn't watch all of the question period because we end up running this a little bit later than when the question period starts. This $100,000 payment to Ocean View Resort, repeatedly that,
Just seems to be the topic.
according to AI, it certainly was, and Fuel for Islanders, slower, unclear, basic delivery on budget, housing, education. We have a big budget. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
But this, this complication of this transfer of funds sort of was unusually dominant for somebody who didn't intimately watch each of the broadcasts. So
Right.
I don't know if we want to get into that, but that was my sort of
So,
summation.
what is your understanding of how the money moved?
Well, not a great understanding, I guess, and I mean that's part of the
That's part of
thing
the
that we
thing,
talk
right?
about, right?
Exactly,
If you don't
yeah.
address it and communicate it, it becomes confusion.
Right.
And that's not good if you're in
Yeah.
government. So what appears to have happened from this sort of observation is a request was made by a developer to do some work, which is normal course of action. I think the anomaly of this was that the funds that were required to pay for the permit to do the work went to a organization as
Okay.
opposed to into the public treasury and through government, which would be the normal channel. And I think that is where the confusion lies
Okay.
and the lack of clarity and how much funds. There's some question on the institution that received the funds and the connection to individuals and who was involved. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing that's coming up in the legislature. We're going to have to tune in. We can watch the broadcast because they're recorded.
You're right. But it doesn't call into question the developer, does it?
I think the developer, from what I can see here, did what was requested.
Right.
He wanted to do a permit to do some some landscaping work, which was around watersheds. Was advised how to make the payment for that to occur, and I don't think the developer was doing anything other than what he was directed.
And it doesn't speak too much to like money went missing or anything. It was just sort of misdirected. Am I right in that?
Misdirected, I guess that's the issue.
Right.
Where was it directed and why and how much and
what was expected based on
it didn't
that.
go to government.
Right.
And it went to a third-party organization that seems to be not
It
incorporated.
didn't follow a process that was laid out.
Not that would be expected, or the taxpayers would expect.
Yeah.
So,
But
and
there's still a lot of unanswered questions, right?
Yeah. Where did that money ultimately go to?
Yeah.
And why was it directed? I mean, we'll see. This will probably come out in the legislature, but
Yeah.
that was one thing. The other thing that's kind of interesting to me is the pending budget.
Okay, tell me about it.
Well, we don't know. I don't know when it's coming down. We assume it might be pretty soon. It says apparently one of the ministers, Minister Deagle, might have suggested it's coming soon. I'm really curious to see this budget because I'm a kind of a fiscal conservative person, and I'm uncomfortable when I see large amounts of deficit financing and debt accumulation because it just burdens future generations. So I'm expecting that we'll have an austerity budget.
Okay.
And that's something that we, or I shouldn't say, Islanders are not conditioned for that because there's been a very liquid flow of capital.
Right.
And when those caps are turned back, which they have to be, whether it's now or in the future, it's going to be painful.
What's it look like to you? What do you think that's going to look like?
I think it will be a reduction across many things, including, we talked about the public service.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the expenditures of government, I mean, there's 1.3 billion that goes toward healthcare. The labor component of the budget is significant, and that's the people, people working in government. So when you start looking at where you can tweak, I mean, you can cut programs and you can cut funding to institutions and organizations, and that's probably going to happen. The bigger impact and the politically volatile impact is what happens when you affect people in the service.
Right.
And there's an economic ripple to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Since people are, retracted, that those jobs are changed, that economic churn is lost.
Right.
And that affects the economy. So this is a very difficult budget, I would suggest. If it comes in and there's another big deficit, I'd say, okay, somebody's not doing the job again.
Right.
But we'll see what happens. I'm curious. I know we've got some guests that want to come in to speak to that.
Right.
And once it drops, we'll have some people in.
And then conversely, the federal government is talking about spending on defense. Where do we find ourselves in that conversation? If we're going to have to cut back provincially, is there an opportunity federally to sort of be in a bigger conversation?
Well, and we chatted about this a couple of days ago. I think Andrew Coyne had a really good comment on this. He said that if we spend more money on defense, which we're committed to, which is appropriate, we have to in this world, it's got to come from someplace.
It's got to come from somewhere. We're going to make that money first.
Who's going to get cut?
Yeah.
What's going to get cut?
Right.
And the economic impact of those cuts. Because defense, although we talk about how everybody can participate in it, it is fairly focused. And not everybody across the economy benefits from the defense spending, at least initially, probably not wholesomely. So where does the money come from that's being diverted, and what programs are affected, and how are Canadians affected? I think that's the story behind the story that will have to come out as well.
Yeah, I remember talking to Peter McKay on my other podcast. I've had him on a dozen or more times. But in the last conversation I had with him, his line to me was, look, we've got to make that money before we spend that money. And so it's interesting, right? Because we're trying to do a lot of things here at once. But I can't help but think that the province of Prince Edward Island, there is an opportunity here that we really need to lean into very aggressively.
So in the defense, you mean?
Yeah.
Being proactive, and arguably we're not being proactive. I did see that Jason Aspen just signed a big deal yesterday. So there are companies that are doing progressive things, but in general, you have a better sense of this than I do. I'm not sure that our biggest industries are maybe positioned to be up to the challenge today.
Or even looking at it correctly, I watch, but they're not alone. I must start by saying they're not alone. Some provinces and jurisdictions are moving faster than others, to be sure. But by and large, everybody is looking at this space and trying to figure out where they fit in. So it's okay to not understand it right now. I'm finding that the defense sector, by and large, when they look at other sectors, they don't really know what they don't know. And other sectors looking at the defense sector, they don't know what they don't know. So just this last few days, the Canadian Armed Forces, each element, Army, Navy, Air Force, were laying out exactly what they will be doing in the future. And, just project by project by project, spelling it out. And the people that were in the room were different this year, right? There was big construction.
Broader.
Well, there was
new people.
Big construction companies in the room and things like that, trying to figure out where do I find my, but this is what Prince of Rada needs to do.
Right.
So if you look at things like agriculture, well, there's not a natural connection there. Well, I would argue there's a very natural connection between agriculture and defense. It's such a natural. If I look at the Bio Alliance, there's a very natural connection. If I look at construction and so on and so on.
But if you're not looking at those to take advantage of it, you're missing an opportunity.
Well, if you're not trying to understand it, I think that you're missing an opportunity. And this is where we get back to that initial point. I just find we're not moving fast enough.
Right. Well, you mentioned something about your conversations with Peter MacKay, a good fiscal conservative, I would say.
Yeah.
Progressive conservative and a Conservative Party of Canada architect. You are with an organization called Gale Force Wins, WINS.
Yeah.
And you've been doing these kind of conversations now for several years, all over the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a little bit of an overview on the incubus, how it started, how far you've traveled, and kind of people that you talk to.
Well, Gale Force Wins was born from a conversation during COVID where I tend to reach out to people randomly in life and remain connected with them. And in this particular case, it was a friend of mine from the east end of St. John's, a guy by the name of Jerry Crew. Jerry and I...
Is that a rough end?
No, it's
okay.
It's the best end.
Okay.
Jerry and I had done our basic training together when we joined the Navy back in the mid-'80s. Okay. And I reached out to Jerry to see how he was doing. It was very unusual. It was just at that moment that he had just lost a job. Okay. Literally that morning, and this was in the evening. And the first time he had ever been without work.
Okay.
Ever.
Yeah.
And he was in a pretty low spot. So I said to him, you gotta find your passion. That's easy to say, right? And I said, well, what do you love doing? He said, well, I love shooting videos. And he had, in the side hustle all of his life, before it was even a side hustle, he had shot wedding videos.
Okay.
And
difficult clientele.
He will never shoot another wedding video again in his life. The stories he has are unbelievable.
Yeah.
My favorite story was he was asked to help move a table once as a videographer, and he knocked over the wedding cake.
Nice.
That's my favorite story. Okay. But anyway, so it was. He told me that he always wanted to shoot videos. He loved that work, and from that we created a company. And the company was quickly focused on telling positive stories. That was our niche. It was nothing more than we need to find the positive story, and go with that. And that's really what started Gale Force Wins, and now we're close to 5,000 conversations.
5,000 individual conversations.
5,000 individual conversations, complete and around the world, right? Okay. So, we were invited to Hungary to tell stories of Canadians over there. We've been through the Caribbean a number of times, Greece, and we've got to travel places that very interesting.
Sure, you wouldn't normally get to.
Well, not in that context, anyway. So so Gale Force Wins episodes I've shot have been in Moldova and Serbia and places like that. So it's been an interesting journey. But again, it came from a 70% solution, or we're gonna get going. Let's just start going, and that's what we did. And whenever I talk to people now, I encourage people to do exactly that. Just get moving. Right. This is what I feel we're missing here in this province.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to this in a second, but I'm thinking in terms of this podcast context.
Yeah.
So this, as you can see, and I have to say, I'm thoroughly impressed with the viewership that we have.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the comments. So if you have something to say, good or bad, please let us know, because it's helpful. It helps us pivot and create and provide content that's relevant. We started this whole thing a short time ago, this particular call-in was an idea that we had when we did an Exchange podcast. The Exchange, we've got a number of podcasts on theislanddude.com. I'd encourage anybody, if you haven't been there, look at it. We want to create a podcast ecosystem. So anybody who's doing podcasting is welcome to be there. We want a one-stop shop. This daily call-in show has become a passion. I don't know. It's a big commitment, actually. You see, I was late today, and the technology doesn't always work because we're doing it on a bit of a shoestring.
Right.
But are we 30%? Are we 70%? We are trying something, and we pivot. Every day we make changes. I think it's getting better.
Well, I think the concept is what counts, right? And it's this ability to provide people an opportunity to be heard. I find in today's world, those that are on the fringes, that are marginalized, whatever, their biggest concern is they need to be heard.
Right.
And we want everybody to be heard, so everybody's welcome in this particular context. The number is 902-500-2464. It's loosely fashioned after one of my favorite programs in Newfoundland. It's the Open Line Show. They run it every morning, 9 till 11, and everybody calls in. You know, the premier calls in to the person sort of struggling, making ends meet, and they all meet on that point, and they discuss and they have a conversation. It's moderated, but it's not about our opinions, right? It's about the opinions of the people that call in, and that's, I think the proof of concept is now done. We're 10 days in.
Yeah.
People are responding to it.
Yeah.
You'll find over time people want to be more in the conversation, and we've thrown some things out that are somewhat controversial.
Sure. It's bait and click.
It's that, but it's also, it's really meant that we want your opinions. I mean, having Jamie Foxx on is a great example. I walked away from that, I learned something out of the conversation that I didn't know before I started that day, and that's great. That to me is a measurement of success.
When we've heard from people struggling with the costs,
Yeah.
I think everybody's struggling with the costs of fuel and groceries. We've heard from somebody up in the metropolis of Glengarry that was commenting on the increase of fuel and how it affects his organization. We've heard on somebody from that had a concern on our defense and what kind of things might be affecting our infrastructure. So anything goes. We want to hear from people. May or may not be something that's easy to talk about, but we want to have a platform where people are comfortable to talk.
Right.
And we know that decision makers are listening.
Yeah.
And they're listening in greater volume. And we welcome them to come, either call in or come and sit here.
And no one took me up on my big idea of putting sonar systems on the
Not
ferry.
yet.
Not yet.
I mean, the ferry's not running, so they could be fashioning those right now.
I just had a business meeting with a company yesterday at Maid Marian's. I like to have my meetings at Maid Marian's.
Because there's an Allan Dale special.
Because there's an Allan Dale special right there. Get your chicken tenders at Maid Marian's. Maid Marian's is not sponsoring just yet.
But they could. We're accepting sponsorships.
It's your Allan Dale chicken finger special at Maid Marian's. And the number to call, 902-500-2464. No, I had a meeting with a company called Blue Metric yesterday. Blue Metric is a water management company. They do a lot of work in the defense sector, and one of their business development folks on the island yesterday meeting some folks here on the island, and he was talking about the containerized solutions and what they could do in small pack-up kits of how they could purify water.
For emergency situations?
For emergencies. And all I kept thinking about is, again, you look at that ferry and you look at all the things that could be put on it so that it can be also used as a vessel in case of disasters and things like that. So that is a dual-use technology that could be right in front of our eyes, that gets the new ferry, the build of the new ferry, moved up the build list above all others because it's got a military application. Survey those cables with high-tech sonar, put on humanitarian relief things that, you could save lives with this thing, and you could still move passengers to and from Wood Island over to Pictou. And I want to tell you, it's that kind of thinking that I think we need to be in.
So this is Northumberland Ferries. You're looking for a percentage of the
I'm not looking for anything.
What a great use.
I would like, the only thing that I would like,
You'd like to see it done.
I'd like to see it done, but sure, you can put the chicken finger special on the ship.
Well,
there you go.
They have chicken fingers, so you just have to rename it. And they could be a sponsor.
It could be a sponsor.
Yeah, and
NFL could sponsor this program. You're
Of course they
absolutely
could,
right.
and they should.
Yes.
And as long as they can use those vessels for sonar activity, there won't be a tunnel.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's another benefit for Northumberland ferries. What else kind of crossed your mind? I want to say this week, but it's been like not even 24 hours since we did this last.
You know, we talked about at the beginning of the show, we were fascinated about Artemis 2 taking off, and, and you were wearing your
SpaceX.
You were wearing your SpaceX shirt at the time, and
IPO coming up on SpaceX.
When?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
But try to get in and be an early investor, right? If you can be.
What's an IPO? Tell our listeners what an IPO is.
It's an initial public offering.
What does it mean?
It means that it's an opportunity for a company that's presently private. So whether that's OpenAI with Sam Altman, they have ChatGPT, which is a large language model that's very common, or SpaceX, that now have combined a couple of companies, including XAI, which has Grok, is another large language model. They've got Starlink, which we actually use in some of our buildings. And they're launching rocket ships up, which is what we've discussed in the past. So initial public offering is a private company that goes public, and then the community, the public, can get shares in the growth, the success, or potentially the failure of those companies.
Yeah.
Very high in demand, both of those, OpenAI and SpaceX.
Wow. I tell you, the Starlink is it's a game changer for a remote Prince Edward Island. If you're out there struggling with internet, look at Starlink as an option. It's an absolutely game changer.
Yeah, and reliable.
Very much so.
And it's portable, so you can put them on boats.
Yeah.
You can put them on your trailer when you're traveling around campsites.
No, I've used it. I use it sort of in a static location, but I've also used it when I was doing some podcast work up in Bayvert, pretty remote area.
So you have a portable one?
Yeah, a little portable one. You roll it out, and I want to tell you, unbelievable. And we were requiring some serious, not downloads, but upload speeds because we want to move our videos up fast, and unbelievable. So what an incredible offering. And here on Prince Edward Island, that's an important piece of the equation.
Well,
right?
we still have arguably not reliable cellular coverage. So I live in a territory that really has terrible coverage. We're kind of used to, and the government's used to, creating contracts with terrestrial-based cellular service providers. Maybe we need to look at other options like interstellar, like SpaceX.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's I find that kind of technology fascinating. So anyway, back to Artemis. I mean, so here we are. We started this thing. They were taking off in an incredibly risky thing, right? But they're literally a few hours away from entering the Earth's atmosphere at a speed that it's absolutely over. It's just unbelievable to think about. What I heard this statistic today that the speed they're traveling at. You could go from Los Angeles to New York, and I think it was 6 seconds.
Is that right?
That's right.
So Starlink have a Falcon Heavy rocket, which I think is intended to move people around the globe.
Right.
It's passenger transit. One Canadian on this Artemis mission.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, that to me, not only does it speak to him as a person and what he's committed to.
A successful pilot or whatever his background, I'm not sure his background.
Yeah, he was an F-18 pilot. He still is a Canadian Air Force pilot. An F-18 pilot, did his, started off on a farm. Started off on a farm in Ontario. Joined, I think he might have even joined Air Cadets at one point as a young kid, and then joined the Air Force and went through that way, and then was selected for the space program. But I mean, an incredible Canadian success story, just a humble guy. Yeah. But more than that, it speaks to a collaboration between two nations that we cannot overlook.
It transcends politics, current politics.
100%. Yeah. Right, 100%. It sure does. It gives us a pathway to say, this is what's in the art of the possible when two countries work together.
So we had Dan McDonald called in. He's a farmer from Glengarry. Could he become an astronaut? Is that the path that this other guy went? He came from a farm.
Yeah, well, I bet you his kids could if they put their mind to it, right?
So if you're listening, Daniel, there, get your kids into space exploration. Yeah,
and there's little doubt about it that you put your mind to it, it's possible in this country. I mean, he started off by going to the military college, and that's that's another thing. I'm gonna make a plug here for the Canadian Forces because I believe in what they're doing. Right, like what an incredible opportunity for young people right now, or not even young people that are in transition, but certainly folks that are young and looking at a career. So you couldn't find a better career than the Canadian Armed Forces. It gives you a sense of belonging. It gives you a sense of accomplishment, teaches you skills that are very hard to come by elsewhere, and you walk away better than you entered it. And I'd certainly highly recommend it to anybody. Yeah, there's a plug for that too.
So they could be a sponsor.
Be tricky, but yes, they could be a sponsor.
Yeah.
Probably more likely Made Marians right now.
Okay, well, get the Allan Dale special.
NFL Made Marians we got two.
Okay, and send your text in. If you want to be a sponsor, we are willing to consider anybody that helps to get our technology working better.
Exactly right. Yeah.
We need Starlink in here, maybe.
Yeah, we need Starlink in here for sure. Yeah, maybe Starlink could be the sponsor.
That'd be a great sponsor.
It would be a great.
We'd probably get T-shirts.
Perplexity could sponsor us, right? There's so
Well,
many.
they're looking for things to do these days.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
no, Anthropic, I guess. That's some problems in the U.S. military. We're almost, we're not, well, maybe we could go all afternoon. We don't have to rush. But if people wanted to call Allan, and we want them to call, send us a message, send us a Facebook comment. How would they reach us?
902-500-2464. We are the Island. Do call in and looking to engage people in a conversation. In fact, great offering there by Blake. Not only looking to engage people in the conversation, but looking for your ideas on who should host this. And if you are that person that think, hey, I can do that for a week, well, why don't you reach out? Come on in here and sit in the seat, talk about things that are concerning you, and take those calls.
And you're especially welcome if you've got technical expertise, because I think our radio internet broadcast is down. We'll get that fixed for the next broadcast. We'd love engagement. We'd love different voices.
So you're concerned about the budget?
I'm always concerned with the budget because eventually it all trickles back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only one place money can come from.
Right.
A big chunk of it comes from the federal government. I'm not confident that's a reliable source going forward based on the economy. It comes from taxpayers.
Right.
And we talked to Jamie Foxx yesterday about the compounding taxes and the burden that's embedded in oil. And it's tax upon tax upon tax.
Right.
Fuel tax is huge, and by reducing that fuel tax, you can save Islanders money at the pump. But I'm not sure government can do that because they need the funds.
Yeah.
It comes from personal income tax. It comes from corporate income tax. It comes from taxes on liquor and cigarettes. All the fees that are required to operate, maintain, and license your vehicles. There's so many both large tax impositions and micro tax impositions that I just don't think Islanders can take more tax. So when I see continuous budget overspending, I'm concerned for how that translates into the future. Future taxpayers like our children, and then rational actors that are mobile, like physicians, might not elect to stay in an environment where your tax burden is increasing.
Is it much better across Canada?
So it depends on the tax. In some cases, yes. The personal income tax is an example because that probably affects most people more directly. And people are doing the taxes right now for the end of April. Not a big difference. So I've compared it because I'm interested. Ontario is a little bit less, not dramatically, not enough that you relocate.
Right.
Alberta's the best personal tax rate, and it's marginal.
Right.
You don't save that much. If you have a philosophical disposition to how your tax revenue is being spent, maybe you relocate.
Right.
So the border of the U.S., generally a better tax environment, if that's what you're chasing.
If that's what you're chasing, yeah.
And you give up things like access to healthcare. If you have, I don't have access to healthcare, so
Right.
it depends on your circumstances, I guess. But
You don't, you have access to healthcare. You just don't have access to a family doctor.
wow, okay. I can go down to the ER and wait there for 2 days to get my hangnail fixed. But I think the challenge is access to primary care is eroding. We had a physician in Surrey that came up in the legislature
Okay.
that wanted to continue practicing and supporting his patients from a different location. And that suggestion was denied, affecting his patient work.
Wow.
His patient registry, I guess would be the term.
So he just wanted to relocate and...
Well, he had other family considerations. It was, inducing that change environment. So in a way to continue to support his patients, which he has a relationship and commitment to, he looked at changing the physical location of his practice. There's some, I guess, confusion. Back to your, the story's not clear.
Yeah.
Was he denied access? Was he given opportunity to provide service, and what's acceptable?
Right.
Story's not completely clear. It did come up in the legislature.
Stories matter, man. You got to get that's the importance of something like this. Get those stories out, be heard, explain it. That's, to me, that's the key to sort of being very successful and thriving as a community. If we're all clear on what's going on, we certainly have a better perspective for our friends and families and neighbors, and I think that's important. That's the beauty of something like this. You can call right in 902-500-2464, the Island Dale.
We want to hear from you because it's important to get your voice heard. And thanks for those who have called in and those who haven't but are thinking of it. On the phone.
So this will be my last show for a while, and
we're renegotiating a contract. Let's not. We don't know how long, but we're going to come up with something.
I'll look forward to coming back when the time permits and stuff. But I want to tell you, it's been the last however many days, 10 days it's been. Has been fantastic, and I've very much enjoyed the conversation. I think it's quite healthy to be in this style of conversation. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for participating. I think your experience with podcasting and communication and connecting to others helped get the foundation of this call-in program on a great footing. And I think there's interest. We can see that from the viewerships. We'd love to have people engage and participate. And in Allan's absence, he's going to take a short break. And you're always welcome back as a co-host. We do want to have some other voices.
100%, yeah. And the number to call, 902-500-2464. It's been an absolute pleasure to be in this conversation.
I don't know if there's anything else we can cover in the time that we have left.
Other than somebody take up that and run with the NFL Ferry project. I hope the lads at NFL are listening and take that one on, because I think that could be a game changer.
So we won't call out the individuals, but if you're watching this or you know somebody who works at NFL, tell them to tune in to this broadcast. The proceeds that you make from the investment in the defense contract, you can sponsor the program. So there.
And try the chicken fingers at Maine Marion's. They're quite good.
Well, that's great. It's been a really good ride here the last week or so.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
Tune in again Monday. Might be just me sitting here, and it'll be a 5-minute broadcast. We're going to try to get some creative people to join us and help bring perspective to Islanders and allow you to have perspective on what's happening in your communities.
Bye, everybody. An absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Allan.
Cheers.